Hello, welcome to Tech Digest for January 15th. So first up, if you're running local AI models and don't want to break the bank on enterprise GPUs, Raspberry Pi finally dropped something pretty exciting here. So they released a new AI head that actually just adds 8 gigabytes of dedicated RAM to RPI. This is huge because memory bandwidth and capacity are usually the biggest bottlenecks for running LLMs on edge devices. And with this, you can arguably run decent-sized quantized models directly on the Pi without it crawling to a halt. It's looking like a solid weekend project for anyone building home assistants or AGI nodes. I know I've been looking for this, and I looked for various um, external devices that can connect to RPI to accelerate, and there are some available or in development, but this is much simpler. This is just RAM, so amazing finally. I know I'm getting this, and I want to build the LLM in a box, a kind of doomsday device in case I lose all the connections. That will be awesome. Okay, moving on to security. There's a report out from Wired suggesting that AI agents are getting uncomfortably good at offensive security. So we talked previously about how security researchers are using agents to do pen testing and probing, but this is also autonomously identifying zero-day vulnerabilities in the software stacks. So the consensus is that we're hitting inflection point where the offense might temporarily outpace defense because automated fuzzing and exploit detection is becoming accessible to everyone. So if you're a maintainer, it might be time to integrate the same AI auditing tools into your CI/CD pipeline before someone else points them at your code. GitHub already does this, so the code review is pretty good at catching this. And in addition, Advanced Security has even more scanning that is enhanced with AI now. Okay, so speaking of security, researchers over at Wiz, and that's the giant company that was bought out by Google last year for like $30 billion. So they just published a breakdown of a massive supply chain vulnerability involving AWS code build. So essentially, they found a way to compromise core AWS GitHub repositories and potentially threaten the AWS console itself. So this was just classic supply chain attack vector, where a flaw in the build process allowed the code injection. AWS patched it, but it's a stark reminder that even biggest cloud providers aren't immune to CI/CD pipeline vulnerabilities. Definitely worth reading the postmortem to see if your own build environment is exposed to similar risks. So in the hardware world, the battle for silicon is heating up again. We've seen reports that Apple is having to aggressively fight for TSMC manufacturing capacity, specifically facing pressure from Nvidia. Usually, Apple gets first dibs on the latest nodes, but with AI boom, Nvidia demand for advanced packaging like CoWoS, it's eating up the supply. So for us downstream, that signals that the yield capacity for high-end consumer chips and enterprise AI accelerators is going to remain tight um, throughout 2026. Don't expect GPU prices to plummet anytime soon. Oh, well, that sucks. I need it. I need chips. Okay, anyway. So, if you deal with distributed storage, you might want to look at JuiceFS. It's trending today for good reason. It separates metadata and data storage to give you fully POSIX compatible file system. That's cool. So it stores metadata in a fast engine like Redis or SQL and chunks the actual data into object storage like S3. So it gives you performance of a local file system with the scalability of the cloud. It's a clever architecture if you need a mount of massive shared drive across Kubernetes cluster without managing complex setup like with Ceph. And there's a picture. It's pretty cool. Um, okay. The team at Fly.io has dropped another one of their deep dive engineering posts. this time on the design and implementation of sprites. End quote. So they walk through the architecture of the virtualization technology, explaining how they handle fast booting of Firecracker micro VMs. It's a fantastic read if you're interested in the systems programming, Rust, or just understanding the magic that happens when you deploy code to the edge. It really gets into the weeds of Linux process management and networking there. And micro VMs is gonna definitely change how AI works in the near future. Okay. Um, on the networking side, there's a renewed interest in Briar. So it's a messaging app designed for resilience. Um, unlike Telegram and Signal, which rely on central servers, um, Briar is peer-to-peer and can sync via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. Um, so this means it works even when the wider internet is down, creating a local mesh network. It's gaining traction again due to recent internet blackouts in various regions. You see how I had to translate this. They defaulted to different language. From a technical standpoint, the way it handles P2P routing and synchronization without the master node is a great case study in the resilient network design. This came up before. I was looking for something that can connect as a mesh via Bluetooth. This technology kind of comes up and goes away. It's really hard to do on the phones. Um, so hopefully this actually happens. Okay, so moving on, a quick win for Unix graybeards out there. OpenBSD current can finally run as a guest under the Apple Hypervisor framework on Apple Silicon. So this has been tricky integration because of how Apple handles virtualization extensions on the current M series chips. So if you're a developer who loves the security and simplicity of OpenBSD, but you're stuck on MacBook for work, your virtualization workflow just got a lot smoother for OpenBSD. Big supporter. Okay, um, here's one for the career file. So this is a provocative article circulating that is titled "Why Senior Engineers Let Bad Projects Fail." It argues that sometimes the most responsible thing a senior engineer can do is step back and let doomed initiative just crash and burn. So the premise is that constantly hero mode fixing a fundamentally broken process or architecture prevents management from seeing the root cause. And it's a painful lesson, but it's about strategic failure versus tactical success. Definitely give this a read if you feel like you're constantly fighting fires that shouldn't exist. Um, maybe the failing successfully doesn't necessarily apply here, but I definitely have seen this happen. Finally, closing out with some massive engineering scale. So it's a new photo essay that highlights China's renewable energy build out. Wind farms. Huh. So the sheer numbers here are staggering. So we're talking about solar farms that spawn entire deserts. Look at this. Regardless of the policy, from pure infrastructure perspective, the logistics of connecting this much distributed generation to the actual grid is an incredible feat of electrical engineering. It's a glimpse into what a terawatt scale renewable deployment actually looks like on the ground. I heard somewhere that we can just cover up the size of Spain with solar panels and it will be enough for the whole planet. This is getting close. See you tomorrow.